This YouTuber had his home invaded with thieves making off with around $1 million worth of valuables while him, his wife, and son were held hostage. However, the internet isn't entirely convinced that it actually happened, with some viewers pointing out that the thieves and him had some very questionable choices right after the theft happened, which apparently don't quite add up. And now people are wondering, was this an actual heist or a carefully staged stunt for views? Now, let's be real. I mean, considering how many times that we've already seen creators chasing clicks with wilder and wilder content every day, it wouldn't really be a surprise that people would be, you know, pretty quick to question that. But at the same time, once the police get involved, faking something like this at this scale always becomes a whole different game. Because, you know, filing a false police report could easily land you in jail in pretty much any country in the world. But obviously, it's not like that would be a shocker here on this channel compared to what we've covered in the past. Either way, though, meet Alfredo Valenzuela, a 32-year-old YouTuber from Sonora, Mexico, whose content essentially revolves around high-end sports cars and extreme car modifications. His YouTube channel description pretty much sums it up. I upload daily videos about my life, along with tons of car content. And it's safe to say this dude has been committed to the lifestyle, since he has not only been making videos about cars, but also owns a vehicle customization workshop, sells online make money courses, you know, those types of people, operates a cell phone store, and runs a restaurant on top of all that. So Alfredo is clearly very diversified. Then on top of that, he's also extremely open about his love for gambling. Because if you check his Twitter account, he's constantly posting his sports betting combinations, hoping to hit it big. But Alfredo currently...
Now, what I'll say about that, anybody with like a super strong gambling addiction, I don't really trust when it comes to money. Like, I feel like you would pull off certain type of schemes that people who don't have that type of addiction wouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me, though.
Lives in San Pedro Garza in the state of Nuevo León, which is significant to the story because the city is considered not only one of the safest areas in Mexico, but also in all of Latin America. So what happened? Well, on Monday, June 23rd, in the early hours of the morning, Alfredo's world would get turned upside down. According to reports, 5 heavily armed men stormed into his house. At that moment, Alfredo's wife was actually live streaming on TikTok, and the invasion was partially and unintentionally captured during her.
She just so happened to be on TikTok at the same time. Okay, it's possible, but like, I don't feel like this is genuine. I don't feel like he was robbed, you know what I'm saying, by somebody else. I feel like he put this together.
Broadcast.
¿A qué hora van al gym? ¿Qué pedo? Luan.
Yeah, saying that's horrifying is an understatement. The suspects reportedly held Alfredo, his wife, and their baby at gunpoint. They demanded access to a safe that contained luxury watches, jewelry, and a substantial amount of cash. The estimates suggest there was about 1 million pesos in cash alone, just sitting in that safe, which is about $53,000. But that wasn't all they took. The criminals also made it off with Alfredo's Lamborghini Urus, valued at around like $250,000 US. And then when you add everything up, the cash, the jewelry, the watches, the Lamborghini, authorities estimate the total value of stolen goods was about 25 million pesos, or roughly $1.3 million. So hours after this alleged robbery, Alfredo started posting videos on his social media accounts. In one of them, he shows bruises on him and his wife's bodies, clearly being emotional as he recounts what happened, urging authorities to strengthen security in his area. And the most harrowing moment comes when Alfredo speaks about his son and recalls how one of the attackers pointed a firearm directly at the child's head. Now, depending on if you actually believe this story or not, either you feel extremely terrible for the guy or you think, how would someone ever make up something like this for content? It's like the good castle and evil castle meme route. But either way, after the incident, the authorities did not treat it like a joke. San Pedro police immediately set up security checkpoints along major roads in the area, a standard protocol for such situations. The state attorney general's office launched a formal investigation. Here's what some of the details began to emerge about how the robbery actually went down. According to the prosecutor, the perpetrators accessed the home through a mountainous area, basically bypassing the standard security measures, which indicates they were not only familiar with the area, but they'd actually planned this whole thing out. And a few days later, Alfredo himself decided to explore that same mountainous area and documented everything, sharing on video on his channel of the path that the intruders likely used to approach his house. But not too long after, the stolen Lamborghini was actually found abandoned in an underground parking lot at a Walmart in the local area. So according to...
Sounded like an insurance play, man. I don't know what, for what reason, if you're going to recover the item. No, I don't know. I don't understand, but I feel like this was a play, man.
Surveillance footage, the criminals were being followed by another vehicle as they drove the stolen SUV, pointing out to some sort of coordinated operation that may have involved even more people than initially suspected. Later on that week, the state attorney general's office reported that Colombian criminal groups may have been operating in the city of San Pedro. During an interview, Nuevo Leon's attorney general, Javier Flores Saldivar. Oh man, there's probably so many names I'm botching here in this video. During an interview, Nuevo Leon's attorney general, Javier Flores Saldivar, stated the investigation suggests one of these gangs may have been involved in this robbery. He explained they reportedly entered through the back, which is a mountainous area. There's been several cases here involving Colombian gangs. They operate here in Jalisco, which is another Mexican state. But here's where things start to get a little bit complicated, because despite all the official police involvement and the investigation, a significant portion of Alfredo's audience started doubting this whole story, and they're worried it's all fake. So I guess the biggest red flag for the skeptics here is the timing of the events. First, the robbery allegedly happened, and then on the same day, a highly polished video recounting the entire incident was uploaded to his channel. A sequence of events that for some people felt a little bit too convenient to be true. Another thing that raised eyebrows for skeptics was the spike in views, as engagement on this particular video exploded compared to his previous uploads. Because, I mean, to be real, we've already seen creators pull off stunts way more extreme than this for views, as outrageous as the idea of fake.
This was definitely a play for content. It might not have been no insurance scheme, nothing like that, but with, you know, videos like that probably get a couple million views, you know what I'm saying, depending on how popular this guy might be. And, you know, a few million views, pay a decent amount of money, he might have wanted, you know, I don't know, but crazy work though.
Faking a robbery sounds is not unprecedented in a world where, you know, some influencers have gone to even darker lengths for some basic clout. Either way, the 2 days after the incident, Alfredo felt the need to address the growing skepticism. Because in a Facebook post, he said, "I don't understand how there are people saying it's fake when they held a gun to my child's head. I don't know what's going on in their minds, but I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy." Think about how, if this were fake, I'd be getting myself into massive legal trouble. I'm gonna be real here and say I don't have an opinion on this because there's just not enough information to back the skeptics currently. And honestly, he has a bit of a point here. If you fake a robbery and get the police involved and it gets proven to be all fake, I think it's safe to say that you're looking at some pretty serious legal consequences. Because this isn't some like Liver King situation. Because, for example, I recently covered that on this channel where he faked being arrested just for a video. In that case, though, he was using fake cops. Like, there was no real police report revolving that fake arrest. But here, if Alfredo's story turned out to be fabricated, the consequences would be way worse. Because, I mean, here we're talking about false police reports, potential insurance fraud if you tried to claim anything, wasting police resources during active investigation. That's not just like some poorly thought out prank. That's the kind of thing that could really land you in court. And then plus, obviously, if you involve specialized tactical units and have the state attorney's general office conducting a formal investigation, you're no longer dealing with like the local police anymore. This is wasting some serious resources if it's all fake. As of right now, the police are continuing to investigate the case, but so far there's been no trace of the stolen property or the suspects except for the Lambo. But this kind of outcome is kind of common in cases like this, even when the reports are entirely legitimate. Recovery rates for stolen luxury items and cash tend to be basically very low. For example, in 2019 in the United States, less than 30% of stolen items were recovered nationwide, especially when it comes to jewelry, watches, electronics, cash, and so on, because those things just vanish. And of course, if they turn up years later, it gets a little bit tricky to figure out, oh, was this actually their thing? Whether this robbery was real or fake, it really highlights a much darker reality about the content creation space, especially when it comes to luxury lifestyle content. For example, just a few months ago, I covered Jack Doherty, where he essentially had this $300,000 chain snatched on the streets of LA. Because when your entire brand is built off of showing off expensive things, cars, watches, diamond chains, you're indirectly advertising to potential criminals. Every video showcasing a new purchase could become a catalog for people with malicious intentions. And
that's a fact. That's how Pop Smoke got killed, man. He happened to post his spot and it had the numbers for his address on the house, and they scoped him out like that. Like, if you got valuable items, people will try to get that from you, man. So you always got to be cautious about that. I don't know about this dude though, but that's true.
the age of social media, it's just easier than ever for the criminals to just study their targets. Now, it's safe to assume that Alfredo will likely have to completely overhaul his approach to personal security, whether it's at home or outside. The investigation is currently ongoing, so we may eventually receive more definitive answers to what actually happened that night. But for Alfredo and his family, I hope they just take all the time they need to recover physically and mentally from this whole ordeal. Having their home invaded in that way is the kind of nightmare no one deserves to ever go through. But either way, if there's a substantial update on this, I will probably cover it again. Drop a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you.
Man, shout out to Tozy, man. Now, as far as this video, if they did happen to get robbed for real, I apologize for my judgment. But I'm not buying it, you know? Y'all tell me how y'all feel in the comments of this video, man. Let me know. Do y'all feel like this was a legit robbery? Or was this something staged for some content or some other type of attention? This is Lusky. You watching Lusky Views. Till next time, I'm gone. On your social 20 more fees, I'm trying to test.